The Labour MP Chris Bryant made quite a splash on LBC radio this week by effectively saying that being woke, in other words, ultra PC, just means you're a nice person. Really? Here's what he had to say.
To Tory MPs and people on the right who argue about all this kind of woke stuff, I just want to go, I'm sorry, you should never judge somebody according to the colour of their skin, what accent they speak with, whether they're male or female, what school they went to, what qualifications they've got, or their sexuality. The law should treat everybody equally, and everybody should have an equal chance in life. That's woke. That's me. It's decent British values.
That's not woke, that's what we all think. Wokism is something very different. This video predictably was liked by the BBC's wokester-in-chief, virtue-signalling millionaire Gary Lineker. Spot on, said Saint Gary. Paul Embry, the trade union activist, yes, a voice of the left and also a GBNews presenter, put it brilliantly in response to the Bryant video and Lineker's response. He wrote, "It isn't spot on at all, Gary. Bryant has disingenuously defined the word woke to fit his own argument." Well said, Paul. Lineker is, of course, so woke and so worried about poverty, but has been in a tax dispute with the HMRC, who believe he owes them millions. He's so woke, he even claims to be a victim of racism, something refuted by GB News' Nana Akua, who famously said in response to Lineker on this network, "I'm black, you're white, Gary, and your comments trivialise racism." Ouch. There's a burn. And this is a central theme of so-called wokism. Hypocrisy. Pretending to be such a nice, lovely person that wants the world to be a better place, but often doing quite the opposite in terms of your own actions. Like the climate change fanatics that travel everywhere by private jets. More on Prince Harry later. Anyone that spends any amount of time on social media will tell you that the rainbow flag-waving Be Kind Brigade are some of the most vicious bullies you will find. They've normally got a blue heart or something about the NHS, and even though they hate the Union Jack flag, they're normally flying the obligatory EU and Ukrainian ones. Woke warriors try to appropriate empathy for what is in fact a deeply toxic and illiberal cause. Because wokism is, in fact, deeply totalitarian. It's ultimately about deciding which books you can and cannot read, which artwork should or should not be on display, which jokes you can or can't laugh at, and which songs you should or shouldn't be tapping your toes along to. It's a Maoist-style land grab of our history, our language, our institutions, and our culture. It's the reason why talented and thought-provoking journalists and authors get cancelled from universities, because their views might be deemed unsafe for those incredibly fragile students. God forbid that universities should challenge the ideas of their undergraduates who have borrowed a huge amount of money for an alleged education, but thanks to the deeply embedded woke culture in universities, are now simply paying to be brainwashed and have their narrow views confirmed. I'm terrified for the future when that generation are running the country. Wokism sees Shakespeare, the greatest author in the history of humanity, as problematic. The Globe Theatre have been looking to rewrite his incredible works in order to decolonise them. Strange that, given that Shakespeare existed centuries before the colonial era began. And Churchill, the great war hero who defeated mass-murdering racist Hitler, is now apparently a bad man. Wow. To abuse the memory of Winston Churchill, a man who saved the free world and millions of lives, is, in my view, a profound sin and eye-wateringly offensive. But wokism has no real empathy, no logic. It makes no sense. It's bonkers and contradictory. Masking people was classic woke. No strong evidence they do anything, but visible proof of compliance and your membership of the cult. The woke impulse in relation to the pandemic was to stop the virus and to give everyone money. That was the nice thing to do, we were told. To be seen to save lives. In reality, many more will die thanks to the damage of lockdowns, economic devastation, and ignored other illnesses. Not very nice, that, is it? And it's not very nice as millions struggle to pay their energy bills and future generations now burdened with massive debt not of their own making. Again, not very nice. Wokism and communism dovetail closely. It's all about the big state, about doing things for the public good, like having a vaccine against your will or muzzling your face. And it characterises anyone that doesn't comply as a bad person. Tricks used by evil dictators since day one. Vaccine mandates where you lose your job or your freedoms for a jab you may not statistically need is also classic woke. It's my view that vaccine mandates are nothing less than chemical rape. How ironic that pro-choice abortion campaigners in America who bang on about bodily autonomy don't take the same view when it's a needle being forced into your harm. The wokies are hypocrites. In the Church of Woke, dissent will not be tolerated. Whilst we don't have the public use of terror against rebels, not yet, we do have the virtual public floggings. People being cancelled, ostracised and losing their livelihoods and reputation for thinking the wrong things, doing the wrong things or saying the wrong things. Can there be a more high-profile example of this woke cancel culture than the most successful British author of the last 200 years, J.K. Rowling? She created the fictional game Quidditch in her Harry Potter books. Sporting leagues in the US have now changed the name to Quadball because she is such a monster, apparently. You'll never be woke enough for these people. Rowling herself, a progressive left-leaning artist, has been effectively edited out of her own literary history, Tipexed away by the film studios she enriched and thrown under the bus by young actors who she made millionaires for stating basic scientific facts about human biology, that there are just two biological sexes. And that's a key aspect of wokeism. It's built on lies. The lie that a biological man rocking the full meat and two veg is a biological woman. The real-world consequences of this kind of woke ideology, which is contradicted by every biology textbook you'll find, is that you now have biological men going into women's changing rooms, impregnating women in jail cells, and smashing young female athletes in the swimming pool, with nobody seeming to pick up on the fact that the likes of Leah Thomas's Speedos are significantly fuller than those of her female rivals. It's all balls. Woke warriors hate community. They hate patriotism and they hate nationhood. Why? Because those things bring people together. They seek division at every turn, viewing the world through the lens of race, social class, economic status, and personal politics. Wokism is a global movement with growing demand among these nutters effectively for open borders, without thinking for a second about the huge societal, economic and national security implications. When real people suffer, they will fall silent because they are weak too. Wokism trades on being nice, but it's not nice at all. It's vicious, unforgiving and highly destructive. It works against Western values of economic and political liberalism. It works against democracy and free speech. Being woke doesn't make you a nice person, it makes you quite the opposite. It's fascism draped in a cloak of empathy. It's cruelty dressed up as kindness. It's hypocrisy in heels. Wokism is the single biggest threat to the West, far worse than terrorism or international bad actors. Free democracies like the US and the UK now contain within them the seeds of their own destruction, with woke forces at play to divide our society and destroy our economy. The only winners in all of this are China, who are more than happy to watch us tear ourselves apart. Tackling wokeism is a democratic, cultural, economic and national security emergency. And there's no one that won't ultimately be affected. Wake up to wokeism, folks, because you'll be next.